All right, this week we are covering Chapter 11 of the textbook, which deals with various specialized practice areas. The chapter includes quite a bit of discussion of substantive law related to different types of areas of practice. You should review very carefully the chapter objectives on page 299. This lecture is going to go beyond what is discussed in the textbook. I'll have a subsequent lecture that will summarize the matters that are discussed in the textbook. So again, this lecture is supplements the textbook, and you will be expected to have a mastery of what is discussed in this lecture for purposes of the exam. What I want to talk about in this lecture is where paralegals work, and use that as a discussion of various areas of law and how law is practiced. So we divide up legal areas into different types of specialties. Beyond that, most lawyers and most paralegals, for that matter, work in private law firms. It's estimated that over 2/3 of lawyers and paralegals work in private law firms. These law firms can be or vary from a one lawyer sole practitioner offices to multinational law firms that have dozens of offices throughout the world, employing thousands of lawyers and paralegals. So we have everything from those extremes. Those that work in the large multinational law offices, or even larger offices, even though it might be just one office law firm. One of the big differences between those and sole practitioners is generally the specialty. I mean, you do have sole practitioners that specialize in one areas of law, but normally lawyers that work in smaller law firms tend to practice in more than one area. Again, the people that work in the very large law firms, they're going to be very, very specialized. The large law firms have are very structured, and if you were going to work in one of these law firms, it's much more hierarchical than a smaller firm. One of the advantages of working in a larger law firm for both lawyers and paralegals is generally the pay is much greater. Along with that pay, however, comes stresses and generally long working hours. One of the things that's common in all private law firms is that they exist for the primary reason of making money for the owners of the law firms. We generally refer to the owners of the law firms as partners. If it's a professional corporation, they would be shareholders, but we generally use the term partners. And again, they make money from their own labors and from the labors of other people. Generally, these large law firms demand a tremendous amount of commitment to it. You read about some of the hourly requirements, the billing hours that are required for these large law firms, and some of them can just boggle the mind. And when you consider the time commitment that it requires, particularly the younger people in these large law firms, literally it's a 7-day-a-week or 6.5-day-a-week commitment, extremely long hours. The next area of law that, or next type of practice that lawyers and paralegals are next, as far as a level, would be corporate legal departments. Many business organizations have found that they can save money by having their own in-house corporate legal department. And these, again, corporate legal departments can be very small, consisting of one or two lawyers, or very, very large corporate legal departments with many offices and lawyers and paralegals. Corporate legal departments differ in the amount of work that's actually done in-house. Some corporate legal departments do all or nearly all of the legal work for the company. Other do some legal work, but also coordinate the referral of work to outside lawyers. So again, quite a few opportunities in these corporate legal departments. As far as working environment, generally it's less stress. Many lawyers and paralegals go from private law firms and transition into corporate legal departments in order to put less stress in their lifestyle and have more free time. Again, when you think about it, there isn't usually the profit incentive in a corporate legal department, and you don't have the incentives to work the long hours. As far as the next level of where lawyers and paralegals work would be in governmental agencies. And these agencies run the gamut from administrative agencies like the Department of Motor Vehicles, the Social Security Administration, Environmental Protection Agency. Again, there's just literally thousands and thousands of administrative agencies that hire lawyers and paralegals. Law enforcement, many lawyers and paralegals work in the area of law enforcement. This can be as varied as the prosecuting offices who prosecute crimes at the state level. At least in California, felonies are prosecuted by the county district attorneys. Misdemeanors are also prosecuted by district attorneys. If there's a city legal department, oftentimes misdemeanors would be handled by the city attorneys. At the federal level, prosecution is done by the Office of the United States Attorney. And there's a U.S. Attorney's Office, of course, in Washington, D.C., but there's also local U.S. attorneys' offices in the various districts. On the other side, defending criminal defendants, again, we're still talking about people that are hired by the government, include people that are employed in public defenders' offices. And again, we have public defenders' offices at both the state and federal level. At the state level, the counties maintain their public defenders' offices. At the federal level, there are public defenders' offices in each of the districts. Many people work in legal aid offices. The legal aid offices are a place where lawyers and paralegals can go to get extensive hands-on experience. The type of work that legal aid offices vary from office to office. Some legal aid offices provide full service legal representation to people without funds. Other legal aid societies have to prioritize their efforts and emphasize things like domestic violence and things of that nature. So before you go to work for a legal aid office, you'll find out what type of work that office actually does, and if it's something that you're interested in. The last area of law that I want to talk about, this is with respect to paralegals, is there are paralegals that work on their own. And you recall that earlier in the semester, we talked about the definition of a paralegal, and one of the definitions is that they don't provide legal services directly to the consumers, but actually they work for lawyers And these freelance paralegals are the same. They actually are paralegals. They're not these type of storefront paralegals that are offering their services to the public, but rather they're very specialized paralegals who offer their services to lawyers. An example might be a lawyer that has a busy probate practice but doesn't want to have the headaches of having a full-time employee as a paralegal, might contract with a freelance paralegal who specializes in probate. This has become easier in the past few years with the rise of the internet and email, because it's much easier to exchange files and documents, and essentially an extension of the remote working. These freelance paralegals were working remotely long before it became popular with other people. And so again, the freelance paralegals can have, again, their specialties can be very broad. You might have a freelance paralegal that specializes in family law, that markets their services to family law lawyers, etc. Okay, so that's kind of a broad brush of where people work in the legal field. The next thing I want to talk about is different specialties. The first specialty that is referenced on the slide here is litigation. And litigation essentially is adversarial. It's fighting with people, working out disputes, lawsuits through the court systems. Lawyers and paralegals that work in the litigation area are employed primarily by law firms, both large and small, also corporations, and as well as in the court system. At Cerritos College, we place several of our paralegals directly with the court system, and they perform various duties. And the duties can be, incredibly broad range, depending upon the experience and the type of litigation. At a paralegal level, it might involve direct client contact as far as interviewing clients, gathering information from clients and witnesses, document review, summary, general litigation support, preparing cases for trial, and in some instances, actually drafting legal pleadings, under the supervision of a lawyer. So again, and I would say probably, close to half of all lawyers and paralegals do work in the litigation area. You hear the term corporate law. We normally associate that term with people that work in formation of different types of business entities, whether they're corporations, limited liability companies, partnerships, or the like. And people in this area work on, again, preparing or forming the businesses, and also in the financing of the businesses, various regulatory aspects that affect the businesses, and finally the winding up. Again, this is generally a very paper intensive practice. I use paper kind of loosely now because obviously most of the work we do doesn't deal with paper at all. It deals with electronic files. People that work in the corporate law area work for private law firms, of course, in corporations. Here, we also find people that work with the various administrative agencies that regulate our businesses, whether it's the Department of Corporations or the Securities and Exchange Commission, Department of Business Oversight in California. Again, there are hundreds and hundreds of administrative agencies where people find work in the corporate law area. Real estate law is another specialty. It's a very broad area of law, and the thing that characterizes real estate, not surprisingly, is that it's an area of law that relates to real estate. We can have litigators specialize in real estate. So in that sense, it's also litigation practice. We also have lawyers that transactional lawyers that work on documents related to the purchase of and sale of real estate, financing of real estate, representing lenders that lend money secured by real estate. Also, you might have lawyers who work for title insurance companies, and these are essential in order to ensure that people that are buying property or loaning money secured by real estate are getting a valid lien on property. Lawyers and paralegals find work in the real estate area, as always in private law firms, corporate law departments, title companies, directly with lenders. I guess this is akin to a corporate law department, but working in-house with lenders. And again, also in administrative agencies that deal with real estate. So again, real estate law deals with real estate. Personal injury law. This is an aspect of litigation law. Again, extremely adversarial. Involves people that file lawsuits to collect damages on behalf of injured parties and those that defend people that are being sued. So we have plaintiffs' lawyers and defense lawyers. Again, a lot of paralegals work in the personal injury area, and depending upon the nature of the law firm, their duties can be incredibly varied. We have a very high volume plaintiff's personal injury practice that deals with a lot of clients. The paralegal is likely to have a lot of hands-on contact, direct contact with clients, gathering information from the clients and witnesses, obtaining records, doing litigation support. Again, the duties are very, very broad. The employers, where do people work in this area? Obviously, private law firms again, corporations. We see this over and over again. Also, directly with insurance companies. The insurance companies generally in any lawsuit of significance are very involved in the aspect of litigation, because they're paying the lawyers that defend the action. So we have lawyers and paralegals that work in-house with these insurance companies. So again, very, very important area of law. Estate planning and probate is another area of law that includes both transactional aspects, that is preparation of estate planning documents, but also a litigation area, resolving disputes through the court system that arise out of estate planning and probate lawyers, probate matters. So those lawyers and paralegals that work on the transactional side, they're actually preparing the wills and trusts and the related documents like powers of attorney. They also would be involved in the administration of trusts outside of the court system. From the litigation standpoint, we have probate proceedings that go through the court system. Most probate proceedings are not adversarial. They are resolved relatively routinely, but there is a great amount of litigation and an increasing amount of litigation arising out of both probate and trust matters. So again, this estate planning and probate area of law is just a booming area, and I think it will continue to be so. People primarily find work in this area, mostly in private law firms, also in the court system as well. Another specialty of law, and one we teach here at Cerritos, is immigration law. It involves the legal rights of non-U.S. citizen related to entry to the country. It's almost 100% federal practice. The United States government, not the states, passes law related to immigration law. Interesting, I don't know if a majority, but probably the majority of lawyers practicing in immigration law, they derive most of their revenue from representing businesses and coordinating obtaining of various visas for employees to come and work in the United States. We also have, of course, people that assist people trying to obtain legal residency in the United States, and visas, working directly with those people. So again, people work representing both the applicants, the employers, and finally the government. So where you find work here is with private law firms primarily, and with the various administrative agencies that are involved in litigation or in immigration matters. Another legal specialty that go together are bankruptcy and debtor-creditor relationships. From the bankruptcy side of the equation, these are federal proceedings. We'll talk a little bit about bankruptcy as it's discussed in Chapter 11 of the textbook. But again, these are federal proceedings. Debtor-creditor relationships involve collection type of matters, and these can be handled in both state and federal courts. Lawyers and paralegals that work in these areas represent debtors, the people that owe money, but also creditors and various committees that are appointed in bankruptcy matters. Lawyers and paralegals that work in this area have a broad variety of duties, ranging from again litigation, but also more routine types of bankruptcy matters, gathering information, preparation of various documents that are filed in bankruptcy cases. And so the duties can vary widely between those people that have a lot of client contact versus people that are just preparing documents, and people that are involved in the litigation process. Again, where do we find work in this legal area, especially private law firms, corporations, again, collection agencies here, and courts. When I talk about corporations, we're primarily talking about lenders who may have staffs of lawyers and paralegals that are that practice in this area of law. The next area of legal specialty that I want to talk about is intellectual property. Intellectual property deals with patents and copyrights, trademarks. These copyrights relate to literary works, books, arts, and songs. So if you want to protect, an inventor wants to protect that, they obtain a copyright. Trademarks deal with product marks and logos. As for instance, the distinctive script of Coca-Cola, that would be a trademark. Patents protect inventions. The formula for Coca-Cola is a patented item. People that work in this area of law tend to have very technical backgrounds. I don't know if I've ever met a lawyer that practiced in the intellectual property area that didn't have some kind of engineering background. And the same thing holds true for paralegals that work in this area. It's very, very, very technical area of law, and it it rewards people that have the kind of background, they're able to think in a technical manner. We have both transactional and litigation aspects of intellectual property law. Transactional being doing the various filings to obtain patents and copyrights and trademarks, or challenging them, and litigation related to complaints about infringing on patents and trademarks. We have example of that. We seemingly have endless litigation between Apple and Samsung, and what's ironic is that they're also one of the biggest customers of each other, but they can separate these aspects of their business and do business together on one hand, and on the other hand, fighting about who has rights in various patents and related to various items. Where do people find work in this area? Again, private law firms, in-house in the corporations that deal with this area, and the administrative agencies that are involved here, the Patent and Trademark Office, etc. The next area of law that we want to talk about is environmental law. And this is another one of those areas of law that combines both a litigation aspect and also a transactional aspect. It also involves regulation. So the environmental law deals with things like, the quality of our air, water, soils, resource management, toxic waste. Again, a very, very broad area of law. People that work in this area, again, like many of the others, there's both a transactional and litigation aspect of it. The transactional aspect would involve doing things like preparing environmental impact reports, obtaining various permits for different types of projects, while litigation would involve fighting about these things. In this area of law, people work in, of course, as always, private law firms, in corporations, in-house, but also the administrative agencies that are involved in environmental law. So, something like the Environmental Protection Agency. These administrative agencies have broad regulatory and enforcement rights. So you might apply to the Environmental Protection Agency for various types of permits, but the EPA is also involved with investigations and prosecutions of people that violate regulations. So again, this is a very busy area of law, and one that's not going away in the near future. Employment and labor law is another legal specialty. These people work in a number of different types of areas that are related to employment and labor law, including such broad variety of things as workers' comp proceedings, where people are injured on the job, workplace regulation, OSHA regulations, labor management issues, lawyers and paralegals that work on representing both employers and also employees. And this could involve things as varied as union organizing and union contracts, and litigation arising out of termination of employment. So lawsuits regarding, again, wrongful termination are an example of employment and labor law. Unemployment proceedings, again, an area of employment and labor law. This is mostly an adversarial area of law, but also it can have a transactional aspect, things like drafting employment agreements, drafting union contracts, things of that nature on the transactional side. people work in this area, obviously at private law firms, corporations, but also the administrative agencies that are involved. So in California, for instance, we have the Workers' Compensation Appeals Board. Many of the people that work within the board have a paralegal background, and similarly, the unemployment proceedings. The next area of law is family law. This involves things related to all aspects of the family relationship, including dissolution of marriage, child custody and support, spousal support, domestic violence, but also, again, all of these things are very highly contentious, very emotionally involved. Family law also involves more positive things like adoption. So, for instance, I know more than one family law lawyer who later in their life decided they'd had enough of constant wars with other people, and got into an adoption specialty and found great satisfaction from that. In the family law area, again, the lawyers and paralegals that work in this area have just a broad variety of duties that they're involved, from investigation to fact gathering, preparation of documents, litigation support, etc. People find work in the family law area in law firms, courts, and the various administrative agencies that are involved in family law. Criminal law. When most people think of lawyers, many of them first think of criminal defense lawyers or prosecutors. As I said earlier, people work in the criminal law area at both the state and federal level. This is obviously an adversarial type of proceeding where people are involved in mostly in litigation aspects. Criminal law also involves post sentencing things like probation and what have you. And we actually have several of our graduates of the paralegal program work with various probation departments and as probation officers and doing paralegal work within the probation departments. We talked about the defendants and the prosecution and the different types of law firms that are involved. Okay, that kind of summarizes my discussion again of things outside of what was discussed in chapter 11 in the textbook. Again, the next lecture that I give will go into more detail into what was discussed in chapter 11 and some of the various issues.